right next to him. That's tomorrow.
She breaks everything just like she broke the border, broke our economy. But soon we are going to fix every single problem Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have created, and we are going to save our country. We are going to save America. We're going to save America.
All right. How? That's the question. There we had former President Donald Trump wants to be our next president as well, making us all a promise that he has a plan to make America affordable again. That's what he was talking about in North Carolina. And if I ever get a teleprompter, I'll get to describe to you exactly how he was talking about it. So I am Chris Cuomo. Thank you very much for being here with me at NewsNation. Always exciting. I have the key offerings of what Trump did and did not say and what it means to you. But after that, we're going to look at the biggest story today that no one is really talking about. Did all of our Social Security numbers just get stolen? That's the report. We're going to root out the reality and the risk that our leaders seem to be fine, really doing nothing about. Now, speaking of reality, back to Trump. How real were Trump's policies to make the economy better? His big play is no surprise. Tax cuts.
We'll make tax cuts. Additionally, we'll make them permanent. No tax on tips. I said that was my plan. No tax on Social Security. We're going to stop it. No tax on Social Security.
Now, hold the prompt. First problem is no tax on tips. Sounds great. You need to change the law because right now they're considered income. So he can't do this by himself. He'll need to get Congress to pass it. He didn't talk about it that way because, as we both know, there's very little chance of getting it done. But the idea, we like the idea of less taxes. But cuts only work at the right time and if decreased for the right people. Trump is literally offering nothing new. His new policy is to make the old tax policy permanent. Is that a good thing? Trump's tax cuts of 2017 were called middle-class tax cuts. They were largely designed to help the wealthy. Remember, trickle down, okay? That's still the theory. That said, they did boost investment in the U.S. economy and delivered a pay bump for workers. Were they worth it? Trump ballooned the debt and deficit with those tax cuts more than the president before or after him. Fact. The corporate tax cuts alone added more than $10 billion a year to the U.S. Debt. $34 trillion it is. Added $10 billion to that. He likes to say the cuts and his policies gave all of us several thousand more dollars in the bank, but it was really closer to $750 a worker a year. I don't believe that. Take it up with the Treasury Department. This is their data. Not to mention, he stated no plan to keep Social Security solvent if he removes the tax on payments. Again, easy to say things, tough to do them. That's why we need to hear the ideas and have them questioned about them and debate them. Now, the next big proposal, also not a surprise. Now, I say that not to demean, but to demonstrate. You didn't have to have Trump to get these policies. They are totally familiar to any GOP president. You cut taxes, and then what? You cut regulations.
To make both new and used cars more affordable, I will end the Biden-Harris electric vehicle mandate on day one. In my first term, our regulation cuts saved the typical American family $11,000. In my next term, the Trump dividend will be even larger. It'll be a dividend.
It is funny that he keeps bashing EVs, and it just wasn't a big topic with Elon Musk the other night on their Twitter conversation. Again, with regulation, all regulations are not the same. It's too easy to say simply, there are too many. Trump claimed regulation cuts saved each American family about $11,000 under his administration, and that the new cuts will save us $20,000 a family. Where does he get this number? By attributing all GDP growth the gross domestic product, in the economy as being due to regulation cuts. Now, that's absurd. There are so many factors that drive growth. And the economic reality is it takes years to see any benefit from regulation changes. Not to mention, deregulation is not always a boost, right? It has led to financial and environmental catastrophes in the past, like the 2008 recession. Now, the biggest surprise to me was how Trump pitched his best legitimate issue in this election, immigration reform.
If I win, you will have the largest deportation operation in American history, starting at noon on Inauguration Day 2025. We built 571 miles of wall, as an example. They could have, and that's more than I said I was going to build, but then I was going to add 200 miles. We had it built, and they didn't put it up. Would have taken 3 weeks to erect.
Wouldn't have taken 3 weeks, but I'm glad he was analogizing it to the wall, because it is like that promise, a simple fix for a very complex situation that is going to be very hard to do. I say you give him a pass on the when, because, look, there's no way this is happening on the first day of the inauguration. The planning for something as massive as rounding up millions of people, the logistics alone, coordinating something like that across the country would be like waging war, not to mention the legal challenges. And then we get to the real question. Is it worth it? Sounds good, sounds tough. One model done by the president's alma mater says massive deportations would cost over $100 billion. Okay? It would cost over $100 billion to do. And it would cost the government over $1 trillion in the next decade of tax revenue from the loss of workers. And guess what a labor shortage does? A lack of workers creates inflation. And what about mixed status homes? One person is here illegally, one is not. There are estimated to be millions of those. And the remaining members would be plunged into poverty. In other words, it's a tough-sounding policy, but the tough part is really going to be on the economy, to the tune of trillions over the next decade. So what are we supposed to do? Nothing? These people are here illegally? I get it. But my question to you in return is, since when is doing the wrong thing the best alternative to doing nothing? There are plenty of ways to deal with people here illegally and the big corporations that employ them. Trump just didn't mention any. Like the wall. Sounds simple as a fix, but we are neither a wall or a mass roundup away from a better system. Now, I set the table. Let's eat with the man who coined the phrase, "It's the economy, stupid," legendary Democratic strategist James Carville, and campaign spokesman for Doug Burgum's 2024 presidential campaign, Lance Trover. Gentlemen, thank you. I'll start with Lance. We'll start home team. Lance, did you feel, first of all, that anything I said there bothered you? And did you feel that Trump did what he needed to do today?
I think he was hovering over the target today. I mean, he was saying, are you any richer today than you were 4 years ago? Is anything less expensive than it was 4 years ago? We need to slash energy prices. I mean, look, in a few weeks, this honeymoon for Kamala Harris is going to be over, and voters are going to start keying in after Election Day. And my guess is that those are the exact questions that are going to be at the top of their minds. And so, look, she can keep running around the country, avoiding reporters and doing all that stuff and walking back every one of her crazy left-wing positions out there right now. But I'm guessing when voters start keying into this election, they're not going to be having any of it. So, yeah, I thought he was right over the target.
Listen, Lance, I'm with you. But the defense of his policies is not to say that she stinks. That's what Trump did today also. I'm just saying let's let him argue it on his own merits first. James, so look, the burden for Harris, right, and what Trump has going for him is the list of grievances. These things are more expensive, and they are all middle-class household problems. How does the Democratic ticket deal with economic realities that have over half the people in this country feeling like they're going broke?
Well, first of all, he sounds like it reminded me of a bark at a strip club on Bourbon Street. I mean,
who, me?
Nothing's ever any sense. And no, not you, Trump.
Oh,
you don't sound like a bark at a strip club on Bourbon Street. Trump does. And by the way, he said he was going to keep Obamacare. Wow. How many times did he promise that he'd replace it? Secondly, now Vice President Harris, in some poll in Financial Times, has taken the lead on the economy. Thirdly, I don't know if anybody noticed the CPI number that came out this morning, and so we're moving in a better direction there. And people say prices are not going down. The worst thing that could happen would be disinflation. Let me tell you, if you get to that, you're in so much trouble you have no idea where you are. But I don't know. The stock market doesn't seem to be very worried about this. And in terms of deportation, if you deported everybody here not legally, according to George Will, the bus line would go from Laredo to Toronto. So it just comes out with one idiotic thing after another. It doesn't make any sense. And
well, I think we got to separate the two.
The vice president needs to do anything. Okay.
Well, hold on. Finish that point. What do you mean the vice president doesn't have to do anything? She wants to be our leader. Doesn't she have to make the case?
Well, not as long as he's out there running his mouth and slurring everything, and his dentures falling out, and whatever else is going on with him. That thing today was a fiasco like I've never seen before. I had no idea what the guy was trying to say. Then you had that Elon Musk fiasco. As a kind of a rule in politics, if your opponent is drowning, throw him an anvil. Don't sit there and throw him a life jacket. But we'll have our convention, and we'll have the debate, and everybody, you'll get a big chance on September 10th to see Vice President Harris. And I don't know where it's written you have to sit down for long-form interviews anyway, but I'm sure in due course you will.
Yeah, I know. I just wish it were sooner, and I wish it were here. But, Lance, I want to get your response, but I want you to contextualize something for me. I was surprised by the immigration pitch. It is his winning issue when it comes to the domestic agenda. And going with mass deportation, I feel like he's making the same mistake he did with the wall. It's an over-deliverable of something that is way too simple and hard to do and not going to fix the system by itself. Why can't go all in on the deportation plan?
Well, look, I think if you look at polling, which I've seen a lot of targeted congressional race polling, it's looked at national polls. I mean, the country is completely outraged on this issue, completely outraged on this issue. There are a lot of people who are actually fine with a mass deportation that's out there right now. So I don't know that he's completely off the mark with where a good segment of the population is. But I think at the end of the day, he's at least proposing solutions, which we're not getting from the vice president right now. So, I mean, again, we're talking about this. We're focused on everything that Donald Trump talked about today. At least he is putting forth ideas and proposals, and we can rehash, parse out how he says it or whatever he says. But that is 10 times more than what we're getting out of the Harris campaign, which right now her spokespeople walking back all of her crazy left-wing positions. So at least we're talking about ideas that he's putting forward. And I just don't think he's that far off on some of this border stuff.
So let's end on this point, James, and I give it to you. When you were running Bill Clinton's first campaign and he was running on the economy, he was everywhere making the case. Right. He was everywhere as soon as he could be. Is it weakness for Harris to be called a Hyde candidate?
Well, Bill Clinton was a challenge and had very specific, putting people first. We had a very specific, detailed plan what we're going to do. He talked about it in real terms. It wasn't this rambling nonsense he's talking that has no coherence to it whatsoever. I mean, I'm sorry. And our other guests, I would advise him to tell his boss, don't get too far away from the phone because you might get a call because they're going to have to get somebody to fill in for J.D. Vance because he's blowing himself up every day. So to compare, Bill Clinton was a challenger, and yes, he did. Trump, I got news for you. You're a challenger. You hadn't presented anything but just babbling nonsense. And so I'm kind of enjoying watching him. I could watch about 10 minutes of the rally. His act is kind of going stale, but he's no boogers out there flailing away. Let him go.
Lance, sometimes you don't feel the blade when James sticks it in you. And then you walk away and realize that you are bleeding from the kidney area. Lance, thank you very much. I appreciate you both very much giving me your take on the state of play when it comes to the economy in context of what the former president did today. Lance Trover, to be continued. James Carville, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
4 minutes, 5 seconds. Coming up, You can't have a big moment and not hear from the big man. What did O'Reilly make of Make America Affordable Again? How did he feel Trump did on it? Plus, I got to tell you, I don't get it. Help me understand. Hackers may have stolen the Social Security numbers from you and me. How do we know if we're among the people who had them stolen? Why is nobody telling us anything? Ahead. Look, it shouldn't be surprising, but it must be noted that Donald Trump said he was going to give a speech today and lay out his economic policies. And I know everybody will just excuse it. Well, he is who he is. Yeah, I know. But I think that there are a lot of people in this country who are going to vote on the basis of how they feel about how he is. For instance, he did as much talking about the economy and what policy ideas he had as he did this.
You know why she hasn't done an interview? Because she's not smart. She's not intelligent. We have stupid people like Kamala and Joe running our country, and there's never been anything like this. What happened to her laugh? I haven't heard that laugh in about a week. That's why they keep her off the stage. That's why she's disappeared. That's the laugh of a crazy person, I will tell you, if you haven't known it. It's a crazy. She's crazy. That we can't take it anymore, Kamala. You're doing a horrible job. You were a terrible attorney general. You were a terrible district attorney. You're the worst vice president in history. Kamala, you're fired. Get out of here. Go. Get out of here. Right? Get her out. Boom.
I don't know. Is that what's going to get it done with independent voters like you? Let's bring in Bill O'Reilly. It's good to see you, big man. I got the copy of your book today, by the way. I like the forward, and I love the dedication to your kids. I got a little piece of news for you. Kyle Griffin on Twitter says, RFK Jr. sought, that's the key word in this, sought a meeting last week with Harris to discuss the possibility of serving in her administration if he throws his support behind her campaign and she wins, according to Kennedy campaign officials. Says sought, not that he got a meeting. Relevance.
Sure, I think he should be the Secretary of the Interior so he can shoot more bears. Wouldn't that make sense? He's skilled in that area. So I definitely
He didn't say he shot it.
So Cuomo,
he didn't say he shot it. Yes, sir.
Well, he can skin it, he can dance with it, he can do anything, but he's obviously familiar with bears. He lets them ride in his car. I think we should have a friendly Secretary of the Interior, and I'm going to support him for that position. Look, I have to ask you two questions. You said to Lance, quote, did anything I say bother you? Can I get that question,
Yes.
Cuomo? I mean, we'd have to have
Did
a telephone.
anything I say bother you?
From him. Yeah, that was your lead question. I'd like to get that question.
I'm asking.
But then
I'm
we'd have
asking
to have
you.
a telephone. It'd have to be 19 hours, right? And the second thing,
we'll do a special.
Can I have your permission?
Yes,
I have
sir.
your permission not to use the phrase "at the end of the day"? I would really not like to say that because I've heard it 7 million times in the last week on television news. At the end of the day, I don't want to hear deep dive. I don't want to hear we'll see. I don't want to hear what do we make of that. You know, let's have some fresh stuff. So what do you want to know about Trump and the economy, Cuomo?
Did you feel that what he was saying today will get him the independent voters that he needs to win this election? Extend the base?
I have no blanket idea whether it will get him voters or not. Here's what I can tell you. Donald Trump is a libertarian economist. He believes that the more money American consumers have, the better the economy will be. And in his 4 years, that proved to be true. Real wages rose more than 7%. Under Biden, they went down. Okay, so you accept that. That's his philosophy, and that's how, if elected again, he'll govern. All right, he will do the tax cuts. He will do as much as he can to wipe out government regulation so commerce can proceed in an aggressive way. And that includes things that the global warming crew hate. So that's how he's going to govern. Whether he articulates that or not on the stump, I don't know. I'm not a speechwriter, but I know how he will govern.
Do you believe that going full roundup on his strongest domestic issue, which is immigration, is the right approach?
No, I don't. Because it's impossible, number one. As soon as Donald Trump started to order federal marshals or whomever to remove people from their property, the ACLU and everybody else would file lawsuits and the federal courts would stop it. It would take 10 minutes to stop it. And it would never proceed after that. Even the Supreme Court would not go along with it. What Donald Trump could do and should do is either write an executive order or, if he has a Republican Congress, pass a law that says if you are in this country without documentation, you must register with the federal government. At your local post office, there'll be forms there. You send them in within 60 days so we know where you are and what you are doing. If you do not register, you will be immediately deported. Whether you're living with 18 people, it doesn't matter. Then the federal government can begin to adjudicate fairly, because we should be a fair country.
Due process.
Each case. It'll take years. It'll take years to do it, but at least there'll be a baseline of the government knows who the Hamas terrorists and where they live, and the regular good folks and where they live. All right? And if you don't comply, you're gone. And if you want to do a mass deportation of those who don't comply, the courts will not be able to stop you. You'll be able to do that. And that's what you should
give them. You should give them that idea. One other thing. The idea of time.
Why would I give him that idea? Why would I give him that idea?
Why wouldn't you? Don't you care about your country?
Because I said this before to you. I have talked to 5 presidents in an interview form and off the record. If any president calls me, and they have, and asks me my opinion, I will give it to them. Whether it's a Republican, a Democrat, boom, and I'll lay it out in a fact-based way. But I don't intrude. Okay, I don't call up people and go, yeah, why don't you do this? It's not my job. My job is to watch what they're doing and then put forth a solution that I think would work for the country. Does that make sense?
Sure, makes sense. I've spoken to 5 presidents also.
Because
wait, I want to ask you something, but go ahead.
No, I don't want to sound like a barker at a Bourbon Street strip joint. I don't want to do that. Okay?
Again.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you believe that time is an enemy to his economic argument because we see that things are moving the right way? Prices are coming down, as Biden paraphrased today, saying there's going to be a soft landing. That as we get closer and closer to November, the case that inflation and all these different pocketbook indicators are so bad is getting less impressive.
Okay, you just made a big mistake, and I'm sorry to correct you because I'm in a pretty good mood tonight.
I'm sure.
And I don't want to make you look bad. Prices are not coming down. There's no data to support that. What is coming down is the rate of inflation. That is, the growth of inflation is coming down. The prices for the essentials of life are remaining the same or going up, i.e., car insurance, house insurance, buying a home, food, gas, utilities. All of them are staying the same or going up. The rate of inflation is when it continues to go up. That has ceased at this point. So when the press, the corrupt media, says prices are coming down, that is false. And that should be topic number 1 for Donald Trump. Not that Kamala is dumb, not that she's from another planet. None of this stuff matters, okay? And you ask the question, does it get votes? It does not. It does not. But by telling people you're being misled by Ms. Harris when she says prices are coming down, they are not. That would help Trump.
Right, but that's a little bit of a facile argument, right? If something is increasing, it doesn't just go like this. it has to slide back down to the median price, and then it either starts to go up or down. So obviously, if it's trending the right way, that is a good economic argument to make. It doesn't mean that things are better now than they were. But his case of how bad they are is getting mitigated.
No, it's bad. Cuomo, the price of food is up 20% under Biden.
I don't disagree. Half of American families believe they're going broke.
They don't have any money.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It's bad. So all this razzle-dazzle macroeconomics stuff is BS. Now I'm going to give you one more thing that I think you'll find interesting. So
please.
Donald Trump's weakness in his economic vision isn't tax cutting, because you want to give the folks more money, especially now. What it is ballooning the federal debt. That is really vital. Now, this has been said before. It's not an O'Reilly special, but I buy into it. If you allow drilling of oil on federal land, i.e. ANWR, huge, and you sell the oil on the international market, and you take the profits of that and then use that to bring down the debt, you would be an economic hero in this country. And that's not complicated, Cuomo. And you could slice off a piece of those profits to keep Social Security and Medicare solvent. You can do it in a capitalistic way. You can sell what the world needs, which is fossil fuel, internationally, make gazillions of dollars, and use that money because it's federal land. If he does then everybody in this country should vote for him. Because Kamala's not going to do it, because she doesn't want to upset the polar bears. And the polar bears are going, hey,
that is true.
The price of seal meat is so high, I can't even chase the seal anymore. This costs too much money.
I agree. I think that this is an opportunity. You got to be careful with it. The United States is pumping more oil and gas than it ever has before, but it could do much more than it does based on certain regulations. I think that's fertile ground also, especially given Harris's deference to the left wing of her party. All right, Bill O'Reilly, I got to jump. Confronting the presidents, I've read the introduction, the preface, and I'm excited for it. I like the way it's organized. And did you know that Bill O'Reilly has written 18 New York Times bestsellers? Impressive.
Did you know that Bill O'Reilly is the biggest selling nonfiction author in the world?
In the world. Don't talk about yourself in the third person.
In the world.
At the end of the day, we need a deep dive on that, but we'll see what happens.
All right, Cuomo, thanks for having me in.
Always a pleasure. Bill O'Reilly, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Hey, when I make him laugh, that's a very high bar. Usually, if he's laughing directly at me. The National Public Data Group holds the personal information of 3 billion people. It was just hacked. Every single one of us. This is not hype, okay? We could be at risk of having personal information, including Social Security numbers, in the hands of hackers. How true is that? Meaning, how real is the Social Security part? I don't care about any of the other stuff. I care about that. Next. Keep an eye out on our cell phone in case anybody starts saying they got our Social Security number. The National Public Data Group holds personal information of billions of people on the planet. Like what? Phone numbers, date of birth, Social Security numbers. Oh, yeah, but of how many? Nearly every single one of us in this country. And it's reportedly been hacked. But nobody's really talking about it. Doesn't that piss you off? When there is a cyber type crime, nobody cares. If they did the same thing physically, it would be a war. So what does this mean? Our most vital personal data is available and could be in the hands of cyber criminals. How do you know? What do you do? Cybersecurity expert Rico Suave Danielson. I had to get it in, Rico. I had to.
Hey,
it's not the first time you've heard it. Let me brag about you for 1 second. Rico is a cybersecurity expert. He served 9 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan for us. Brother, thank you. And thank you for being here tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's an honor working with you.
How screwed am I, Rico, right now?
You're not that screwed, but we are all pretty much going to get hit on this one. Unfortunately, a cyber threat acting group, a very big hacktivist group, teamed up with other activist groups and threat acting groups and exfiltrated, 2.9 billion data points right now. And the going market rate right now is $3.5 million. That's what they're asking for it.
So there's this whole other world that doesn't get a lot of attention about how many corporations and governments pay people off to have the hack stop. I mean, it's definitely the weakest part of our asset group of our national security. But the Social Security part matters. How compromised are Americans by this hack with that information?
So what I would say is go ahead and presume that because of this and another breach that happened, the OPM organization, if you're in this one or that one, your Social Security is pretty much gone and a threat acting group has it and it's for sale on the dark web. If not, this breach right here will actually prove that your Social Security more than likely is going to be sold as well. So now it's time to buckle down, bare knuckle down, and actually do some proactive things about it.
Rico, you're way too calm right now. Okay. I know you did 9 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. I know, but this is our Social Security numbers. I mean, if you get my Social Security, can't you not just sell it, but create profiles and credit cards and all these other things? I mean, isn't that the main piece of data that you want? And what do we do to know if they have it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, that's one of the bigger things you need is Social Security. You need the address. You need next of kin, which is also included in this data set. And then also biometric information. Some of the things that you're probably going to see if how do you know that your data is being stolen, right? That's one of the bigger questions is you're more likely going to see a ransom note. And it's nothing sexy. These threat actors actually just post something on your computer or your device or whatever the case may be. It's just a little Word tablet or a little document that says read me or ransom note. And it'll pop up and you'll see it and you'll say, hey, do not contact the FBI. Do not contact law enforcement. We have all your data. Contact us at this site or phone number. Remember, this is a business to them. This is $1 billion business. So there's affiliates, multi-level affiliates and sub-affiliates, and they all work conjointly together to go get your information.
So do I pay?
Well, that's up to you, so if you're a business, we've seen businesses pay and some businesses not pay. If you're a private entity, if you're a person, it's really up to you, depending on how much your threshold is and also the negotiation part of it. I wouldn't recommend paying because at that point you're condoning to an act of terrorism. I would definitely work with law enforcement, a firm like ours, right? Or better yet, somebody who does this for a living and come to a negotiation. The thing about these threat actors, they will actually negotiate for pennies on the dollar. Even though they're asking for $3.5 million, they'll probably settle anywhere from about $900,000. The problem is for them getting the payment.
Rico's outfit is called First Responder LLC. First Responder LLC. Use it if you want to help yourself in this situation. I'm going to. You better cut me a deal. Rico, why is it that we seem to be so weak in the area of cybersecurity relative to other terrorist threats?
Yeah, because it's not sexy, right? It's the simplest thing. Nobody's, how do you glorify multi-factor authentication, email protection, anything like that? There's a company now who actually got Keanu Reeves as a spokesperson. I mean, that's one way of doing it, right? But it's just not really the sex appeal or the facet behind it. But now the threat actors have our attention, and we have to do something about it. The thing is, our government's not doing anything about it, so we as private organizations, private citizens, have to spearhead this fight forward.
Rico, you are suave. Danielson, thank you very much for articulating the threat and letting us know it is real and how they may come to us. And please come again. All right? You got an open line. When there's something people need to know about that you're not hearing in the media, please come. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.
All right, brother. Be well. 9 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's why America is a great company. 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Here's a reason that would not. Bolo. Be on the lookout, my brothers and sisters. You know how we all have to sign those agreements when we sign up for streaming services and everything else? We don't read it, right? I'm a lawyer. I don't read it. I just hit agree. If you signed up for Disney Plus or any other Disney-owned streaming service like Hulu, you may have signed something away. You're about to meet a man whose wife died from an allergic reaction at a restaurant within the Disney World complex. Disney is saying you can't sue because of your subscription. Next. Well, you've heard this before, but not in this context, okay? You know how we all scroll down when we're going to sign up for a streaming thing or, other applications, and you got to agree to terms and conditions? We all scroll down and just hit agree, right? There's a reason they're that long. If you signed up for Disney Plus, like we did, or any of the other streaming services like Hulu, which we did, you may be signing away more than you thought. Not that other servers don't do this, but this is kind of a caveat emptor, buyer beware. A widower named Jeffrey Piccolo filed a wrongful death suit after his wife Amy died from a severe allergic reaction after eating at a restaurant within the Disney World complex in a shopping district called Disney Springs. Family says they've had several conversations with their waiter about Amy's allergies and even confirmed with the chef that her meal would be allergen-free. She then passed because of the meal, they say, and filed a wrongful death lawsuit because of it. Disney says, can't sue us. They're trying to get the case thrown out and sent to arbitration, which is a little bit different, by the way. The headlines are misleading on this story, okay? They're saying because Jeffrey signed up for a free 1-month trial at Disney Plus back in 2019 and signed their terms of use, which includes a tiny paragraph that says any dispute must be resolved by arbitration, that means even his wrongful death case must get into it. And I don't know. So I'm bringing in a better mind. Trial attorney Misty Maris. Now, Misty, I want to give Disney their best defense. They say, we're deeply saddened by the family's loss. Understand their grief. Given that this restaurant is neither owned nor operated by Disney, we're merely defending ourselves against the plaintiff's attorney's attempt to include us in their lawsuit against the restaurant. Well, if that's what they were doing, Misty, then they would say there's no privity of contract with us. We have no exposure to this lawsuit, and they would argue it in court. That's not what they're doing. They're saying because you signed this thing for Disney Plus, you don't have any right to a cause of action against us. How does it smell and how does it weigh in the balance of justice?
Yeah, Chris, I don't know about a better mind, but I love talking about these issues with you because I know you want to deep dive into these contractual issues with me. So, number one, it's two separate issues, right? So on one hand, Disney, in response, they have this statement that they've made. My feeling is that the statement was probably made because there was a PR nightmare when this story started hitting the airwaves, because it seems pretty ridiculous that you would sign up for an app and then all of a sudden you would be forced into arbitration for a personal injury case that happens in the brick and mortar on the property. But the argument that they're raising in this statement is whether or not they actually have a duty to the plaintiff. They're not owners of this property. That's a separate issue from who hears the case. Whether or not it's a judge and a jury filed in a court of law, as the plaintiffs here have done, or it's before an arbitrator. In either case, Disney is likely to raise this as a defense, saying, hey, look, we're not responsible for this particular restaurant because we don't have ownership. I would say that's not necessarily ending the day either way, because the question becomes, well, what responsibility does Disney have for setting safety protocols, hiring, firing, training, and all of that between the restaurant, who might be the owner, and any agreement they have to operate on Disney property? So there's a lot of factual issues to clear up with respect to that. But the big question is, who hears those issues?
I like your point. Well, I like all your points, but there's a reason they didn't mention the terms and conditions in the statement that I just read to you. And that's because it's not their best legal argument. I can't believe a judge would entertain it. Do you?
No. And here's the reason, Chris, because you pulled that language. Absolutely. By the way, I pulled up my account and said, what the heck did I sign? Because I have that subscription. And also in anticipation of talking to you, I wanted to see exactly what that language was, because as you said, buyer beware. Anytime you sign terms and conditions, buy a ticket to something, whatever it is, you're signing a contract at the end of the day.
Right.
But you don't just look at that one isolated component of a contract from a court's perspective and make a determination that, okay, any and all cases, no matter what they are, have to go into arbitration. You have to look at the full agreement. And when I looked, what did I see? I saw user registration, subscriptions, cancellation of the app, payment, copyright. Everything you would think would relate to the use of the application, the use of the platform, not when you step onto that property and if you experience a personal injury when you're actually in the park. And when something is silent, Chris, as you know, as a lawyer, when there's silence in a contract, it comes down to the intent of the parties and what a reasonable person would think. And I don't think you're going to find a judge or an arbitrator who's going to say it's reasonable to assume as a buyer you're signing away any right to be heard in a court of law because you signed up for an app on your television.
Yeah, I think it was poor form, and I think Disney takes so much stock in being seen as a class organization. I bet you now it's going to they're going to find out who offered that up as the defense, first of all, and that person may have some agita coming their way. But I bet you they wind up doing something as a grand gesture now because of this, because the reputation of the company is so important to Iger and the other officials. We'll look at it. You know, when they teach you in law school about the reasonable man, do you remember the metaphor from British common law, where it came from? The man on the Clapham bus. What would somebody sitting on the bus going to work think about this situation? Misty, thank you so much, Misty Maris. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, always.
All right, we got a break. 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Up next, I made it. Final thought. So here I am about to drop some truth, and Dusty's like, no, I have to talk.
No. I get the final thought tonight. Okay, I'm going to regret ever doing this, but Jimmy Kimmel, who hosts Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, was just sent to me. Here's the question. Oxford's 2023 word of the year, Riz, meaning style, charm, or attractiveness, is short for what? A, charisma, B, mannerism, C, pristine, or D, Chris Cuomo. There you have it. Balloons director.
I have arrived.
And look, Daniel Faison, and a big celebrity, Chris Cuomo. Oh, I'm never going to hear the end of it, but congratulations.
Back from when I was somebody.